The alarm screamed through the medical shuttle as Sarah Chen's hands moved quickly over the wounded colonist. Blood covered her gloves, but her face stayed calm. She had seen worse. Much worse. "Doctor, we have incoming," her pilot shouted from the cockpit. 3 Kresh fighters closing fast. Sarah pressed the bandage harder against the colonist's shoulder. "Just get us to the station." 5 more minutes. She didn't get 5 minutes. The first blast hit the shuttle's engine. The second tore through the hull. Sarah barely had time to grab the injured colonist before the shuttle spun wildly through space. Metal shrieked. Lights flickered and died. Then everything went dark. When Sarah woke up, her hands were locked in metal restraints. Her head pounded. The floor beneath her was cold and the air smelled wrong. Chemical. Alien. "This one is awake," a voice hissed above her. Sarah looked up and saw her first Kresh warrior. He was tall, covered in dark green scales, with yellow eyes that looked at her like she was nothing. Like she was meat. "Another human," the Kresh said, laughing. It was not a pleasant sound. So small. So weak. Look at her soft skin. No claws. No armor. How does such a pathetic species even survive? Sarah said nothing. She had learned long ago that talking too much got you hurt. She studied her surroundings instead. Prison ship. Probably a raider vessel. 20 other prisoners in the holding area, all different species. All looking defeated. The Kresh guard grabbed her arm and pulled her to her feet. Sarah stumbled but didn't fight. Not yet. She needed to learn more first. They dragged her through metal corridors filled with more Kresh warriors. Each one stared at her with disgust or amusement. One spat at her feet. Sarah kept her eyes down, her body language small and afraid. Let them think she was harmless. In the processing center, a larger Kresh sat on a raised platform. His scales were darker, almost black, with red markings that probably meant rank. Scars covered his arms. A warrior. A leader. Warlord Threxus, the guard said, pushing Sarah forward. Another prisoner from the human colony raid. Threxus looked down at Sarah like someone might look at an insect. A human? What use is this weak thing? She was healing others, the guard said. Some kind of medical worker. Ah. Threxus smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. How adorable. The soft pink skin thinks she can fix broken things. He stood up and walked closer. Tell me, human, do you know why your species will never matter in this galaxy? Sarah stayed silent. Because you are prey, Threxus continued. You have no strength, no honor. You cry and bleed and break so easily. You dash. His words stopped when Sarah looked up. Just for a second her eyes met his. It wasn't fear he saw there. It was something else. Something that made him pause. Then Sarah looked down again, but it was too late. This one has spirit, Threxus said quietly. I don't like spirit in prey. It gives others false hope. 3 days passed. Sarah kept quiet, helped other prisoners when she could, and learned everything about the ship. The Kresh respected only strength. They tested prisoners through combat. Those who failed entertainment value were killed. On the 4th day, a Kresh guard cornered a smaller alien prisoner near Sarah. The creature was crying, begging. The guard raised his fist. Sarah's body moved before her brain could stop it. Old training. Old instincts. She stepped between them, caught the guard's arm, and twisted. Bone cracked. The guard screamed. The room went silent. Threxus appeared within minutes. He looked at his injured guard, then at Sarah. His smile was terrible. So the little human knows how to fight, he said. How entertaining. I think it's time we test just how brave you really are. He turned to his warriors. Take her to the pit. Throw her in with Vornak. Let's see if she can fight a real predator. Sarah's blood went cold as they dragged her away. Other prisoners whispered warnings. Vornak. The wolf. No one survives. The cell door opened. Darkness waited inside. And somewhere in that darkness, something very large was breathing. The guards shoved Sarah hard. She stumbled into the darkness and heard the cell door slam shut behind her. The sound echoed like a tomb closing. She waited for her eyes to adjust. The cell was huge, much larger than the others. And it smelled bad. Old blood. Waste. Fear. Then she heard it. Breathing. Deep, heavy breathing from the far corner. Sarah didn't move. Every muscle in her body tensed, but she kept her breathing steady. Come. This was important. Animals could smell fear. Predators could smell fear. Cameras are watching. A voice crackled from somewhere above. Threxus. The betting pool says you last 30 seconds. I gave you 60. Don't disappoint me, human. Laughter echoed from the speakers, then silence. Something moved in the shadows. Something massive. Sarah heard claws scraping on metal. Heard joints cracking as the creature stood up. Then she saw him. Vornak emerged from the darkness like a nightmare given flesh. He was enormous, nearly 9 feet tall, built like a wolf but walking upright like a man. His fur was matted and dirty, dark gray with patches of dried blood. Ribs showed through his sides. He had been starved. His eyes glowed a pale yellow in the dim light, filled with rage and pain. Sarah's heart pounded, but she didn't run. There was nowhere to run. Instead, she did something that surprised even herself. She took a slow breath and sat down on the floor. Made herself small. Non-threatening. Vornak's head tilted. Confused. "You're hurt," Sarah said quietly. Her voice was steady. She had used this tone before with frightened animals back on Earth. Back in the Yukon wilderness where she grew up. "That back leg. You're favoring it." "Infected wound, probably." Vornak snarled and took a step forward. His teeth were like knives. His claws could tear through metal. Sarah didn't flinch. She had faced worse. She had survived the Outer Rim wars. Had pulled wounded soldiers from burning ships while enemy fire rained around her. Had lived alone in frozen wilderness where wolves hunted at night. "They're starving you," she continued, watching his movements. "Keeping you weak. Angry. They want you to be their monster." Vornak lunged forward with frightening speed. Sarah's training screamed at her to move, to fight, to defend. But she stayed still. He stopped inches from her face, his hot breath washing over her, his jaws open wide enough to bite her head off. But he didn't bite. His nostrils flared. He was smelling her. Sarah knew what he would find. No fear scent. Just calm. Just certainty. Vornak made a sound, something between a growl and a whine. He backed away, confused. "You don't want to kill me?" Sarah said. She slowly reached for her belt. The creche had been stupid. They left her medical kit. They thought it was harmless. "You want to kill them. The ones who caged you. The ones who hurt you." She pulled out the small kit and opened it. Basic supplies. Bandages. Antiseptic. Not much but enough. Vornak watched as she laid out the supplies on the floor between them. His eyes tracked every movement. "I grew up with wolves," Sarah said. "Real wolves. On Earth. Do you know Earth?" She looked up at him. "They call it a death world. Everything there tried to kill us. The weather. The predators. The plants. So we learned. We learned to survive. We learned to make friends with the things that hunted us." Vornak's ears twitched. He was listening. "My people," Sarah continued, "we didn't survive by being the strongest. We survived by being smart. By making allies. Even with wolves." She smiled slightly. "Especially with wolves." Vornak took another step back. Then his leg gave out. The infected one. He collapsed with a grunt of pain, his huge body hitting the floor hard. Sarah waited. 3 heartbeats. 5. 10. Then she slowly stood up and picked up her medical kit. "You can kill me after I help you," she said, walking toward him. "But that leg will kill you first. And something tells me you still have people to get revenge on before you die." Vornak's eyes followed her. Wary. Hurting. But he didn't attack. Sarah knelt beside the giant wolf warrior and gently touched his infected wound. "Let me help. Then we help each other." Above them, in the monitoring room, the creche guards stared at their screens in complete confusion. "Why isn't she dead yet?" one whispered. 3 days passed in the cell. Sarah worked on Vornak's leg every few hours, cleaning the infection, changing bandages. He growled at first. Snapped his jaws near her hands. But he never bit her. On the 2nd day he let her touch his leg without growling. On the 3rd day he pushed his water ration toward her. "Thank you," Sarah said, taking a small sip before pushing it back. "But you need it more. You're bigger." Vornak made a huffing sound. Almost like a laugh. The creche watched through cameras, confused and angry. This wasn't entertainment. This was something else. Something they didn't understand. Sarah shared her food with Vornak. The portions were tiny, meant to keep prisoners weak. But sharing made them both stronger somehow. She noticed Vornak always ate after she did, making sure she had enough first. "Pack behavior," Sarah murmured, watching him. "You think of me as Pack now." "Pack," Vornak repeated. His voice was rough, deep, like grinding stones. He pointed at her. "You, Pack." Sarah's eyes widened. He could speak. "Yes, I'm Pack. We're packed together." Vornak's tail moved slightly. Not quite a wag, but close. Over the next few days they communicated more. Vornak spoke broken Galactic Common, the language most species used. His words were simple, but Sarah understood. He told her about his people, the Lunara. Warriors, hunters, pack fighters. The Kresh had attacked their world, killed most of his clan. Took him as a trophy. Pet monster. Family? Sarah asked gently. You had family? Vornak's eyes dimmed. Mate. Cubs. Gone. All gone. Sarah felt the familiar ache in her chest. She had lost people too. Her unit in the Outer Rim Wars. Friends who never came home. I'm sorry, she said. She told him about Earth. About growing up in the frozen north after the world changed. About learning to track wolves, to understand their language. About joining the military as a medic because she wanted to save people instead of losing them. Humans, she explained, we're not the biggest. Not the strongest. But we're stubborn. We don't give up. And we make friends. She smiled. Even with big scary wolves. Vornak huffed again. Definitely a laugh this time. Sarah began teaching him things. Human combat tactics. How to use an opponent's size against them. How to fight smart instead of just strong. Vornak taught her Lunara hunting techniques. How to listen with more than ears. How to sense movement in the air. They practiced in the cell when the guards weren't watching closely. Slow movements. Testing each other's reflexes. Building trust. They will come, Vornak said one night. Kresh, angry. We not kill each other. They make us fight others. Let them come, Sarah said. She was working on a sharp piece of metal she had pried from the wall. Making it into a weapon. We'll show them what a real pack can do. Vornak's lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. You, strange human. Small but fierce. Like. He struggled for words. Like cub with teeth of adult. Where I come from, we call that being underestimated, Sarah said. And that's when we're most dangerous. The cell door suddenly opened. 4 Kresh guards stood there with weapons. Behind them, Threxus smiled his terrible smile. Enough of this boring friendship, he announced. Tomorrow you fight. 3 prisoners, all armed. If you win, you get food. If you lose, you die. Either way, we finally get our entertainment. The guards threw in 2 crude blades and left. Sarah picked up 1 blade. Vornak took the other. Tomorrow we show them, Vornak said. Tomorrow, Sarah agreed. We show them what happens when you cage a Death World human and a Lunara warrior together. We don't break. We bond. Vornak placed his huge paw on her shoulder. Gentle. Protective. Pack fights together. Pack wins together, Sarah added. Above them, through the cameras, the Kresh prepared their arena. They expected a desperate fight. A bloody show. They had no idea what was coming. The arena doors opened. Sarah and Vornak walked out together into bright lights. Hundreds of Kresh warriors surrounded them, filling the stands. Their roars shook the walls. They wanted blood. 3 prisoners entered from the opposite door. Big ones. A Kresh warrior, a massive rock-like alien, and something with 4 arms holding blades. All of them looked desperate. Hungry. The Kresh had promised them freedom if they killed the human and the wolf. Remember the plan, Sarah whispered to Vornak. He nodded once. Threxus stood in his viewing box above. Begin, he shouted. The 3 prisoners charged. Sarah and Vornak moved as one. She went low, he went high. They had practiced this. The 4-armed alien swung at Sarah. She rolled under his blades, came up behind him and sliced the back of his knee. He fell. Vornak's claws finished him. The rock creature was slower. Sarah threw her blade. It stuck in his eye. He roared and stumbled. Vornak tackled him from the side, using the alien's own weight to slam him into the wall. The Kresh prisoner was the hardest. He was trained. Fast. He caught Sarah's arm and twisted. She felt bone crack. Pain exploded through her wrist. Vornak roared. He grabbed the Kresh warrior and threw him across the arena like he weighed nothing. Sarah cradled her broken wrist but stayed standing. The 3 prisoners were down. Dead or dying. The arena went silent. Sarah looked up at Threxus. Blood covered her face. Her eyes blazed with fury. You want to know why humans survived our death world? She shouted. Her voice echoed through the chamber. Because we don't fight alone. We make family. We protect each other. That's not weakness. That's our strength. Vornak threw back his head and howled. It was a battle cry. A war song. The sound of a pack leader calling his warriors. And throughout the ship, other Lunara heard. Prisoners in distant cells. Slaves in work pits. They began to howl back. The Kresh guards looked nervous. This is boring, Threxus said, but his voice wasn't steady anymore. Take them back to. The lights went out. Chaos erupted. Prisoners in the stands began to fight their guards. Someone had cut the power. In the darkness, Sarah heard Vornak moving. Heard screams. Heard the sound of the arena door being torn apart. Emergency lights flickered on. The door was open. Prisoners were flooding out. "Come on," Sarah shouted. She ran through the opening, Vornak beside her. Other prisoners followed. A revolution had started. They moved through the ship like a storm. Sarah's military training took over. She knew ship layouts. Knew where weapons would be stored. Where life support could be controlled. There, she pointed to an armory. Vornak smashed through the door. Weapons for everyone. More prisoners joined them. Different species. Different worlds. All of them tired of being prey. A group of Lunara warriors found them. They saw Vornak and dropped to their knees. "Pack leader," they said. "We thought you were dead." "Not dead," Vornak growled. "Angry. And this human." He gestured to Sarah. "She is Pack Mother. We follow her wisdom." Sarah's broken wrist throbbed, but she ignored it. "We need to reach the bridge. Take control of the ship. Can you fight?" The Lunara showed their teeth. That was answer enough. They fought through corridor after corridor. Sarah called out weak points in Kresh armor. Vornak and his warriors struck with precision. Other freed prisoners covered their flanks. The Kresh weren't prepared for organized resistance. They expected animals. Beasts. Not soldiers. They reached the bridge. Threxus was there with his elite guards. 20 of them. All heavily armed. "You cannot win," Threxus snarled. "Even if you take this ship, the Empire will hunt you. Kill you. Destroy every world that helps you." Sarah stepped forward. Blood dripped from her wounds. Her wrist hung at a wrong angle. But she smiled. "Then let them try. Because now they're not hunting scared prisoners. They're hunting people who learned to fight back." Threxus's hand moved to a console. "If I cannot have this ship, no one will." He pressed a button. Alarm screamed. "Self-destruct activated," a computer voice announced. 10 minutes until detonation. Sarah's heart sank. They had won the battle but might lose everything. 9 minutes until detonation. Sarah ran to the console. Her broken wrist screamed with pain, but she forced her fingers to work. The Kresh computer system was different from human tech, but not that different. All military systems had similarities. "Cover me," she shouted. Vornak and his Lunara warriors crashed into Threxus's guards. The bridge became a war zone. Claws against armor. Teeth against weapons. Sarah's good hand flew across the controls. She had hacked enemy systems during the Outer Rim Wars. This was just another puzzle. Another lock to break. 8 minutes until detonation. Threxus fought his way toward her. He was bigger than his guards, stronger, covered in scars from 100 battles. He knocked 2 Lunara aside and raised his weapon at Sarah's head. Vornak appeared between them. He caught Threxus's arm in his jaws and bit down. Bone crunched. Threxus screamed. You are just animals." Threxus shouted, trying to pull free. "Prey? We are the hunters. We are the strong." "No," Sarah said without looking up from the console. Her fingers kept working. "You're bullies. There's a difference. Strength isn't about who you can hurt. It's about who you protect." 7 minutes until detonation. She found it. The self-destruct override. But it needed a command code. A password. Sarah's mind raced. What would a Kresh warrior use? What did they value? Power. Dominance. Victory. She tried different words in Kresh language. Nothing worked. 6 minutes until detonation. Vornak slammed Threxus against the wall. The warlord laughed, blood dripping from his mouth. "You cannot stop it. You will all die with me. That is my victory." His victory. Sarah's eyes widened. She typed one more word. Threxus. The console beeped. Access granted. 5 minutes until detonation. Her fingers flew faster. Shutting down systems. Rerouting power. The ship groaned around them. For minutes until detonation. Almost there. Just a few more commands. 3 minutes until detonation. Done. Sarah pressed the final button. The alarm stopped. Silence fell across the bridge. Self-destruct sequence aborted. Every prisoner on the bridge cheered. Sarah collapsed against the console, exhausted. Her wrist throbbed. Everything hurt. But they were alive. Threxus stared in disbelief. Impossible. You are just a human. Just a Death World survivor? Sarah interrupted. She stood up slowly. We come from a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We learned to adapt. To think. To never give up. She walked toward him. And we learned that the strongest wolves are the ones who protect their pack. Vornak dropped Threxus at her feet. The warlord looked up at them both, Human and Lunara, standing together. Your empire made one mistake, Sarah said quietly. You thought compassion was weakness. But it's our greatest strength. The next hours were chaos. Sarah organized the evacuation. Every prisoner got to an escape pod or shuttle. No one left behind. She worked through her pain, treating injuries, directing traffic, making sure everyone was safe. Other crush ships appeared, but so did human vessels. The distress signal had reached the exploration core. Suddenly the Kresh were outnumbered. When the human fleet commander came aboard, he found Sarah on the bridge, surrounded by dozens of different species. All of them looked to her for orders. Dr. Chin, the commander said, staring. What happened here? Sarah looked at Vornak, who stood beside her like a guardian. Like family. We reminded the galaxy why you don't underestimate Death World species, sir. Any of them. The Lunara warriors howled. Other freed prisoners joined in. It was a sound of victory. Of freedom. Weeks later, Sarah stood at a memorial for the prisoners who didn't survive. Vornak was beside her, his wounds healed, his pack restored. They will write stories about this, Vornak said. About the human who made friends with monsters. Sarah smiled. We're not monsters, Vornak. Any of us. We're just survivors who found each other. Pack, Vornak said simply. Pack, Sarah agreed. Across the galaxy, the Kresh Empire was forced to negotiate. Other species began to see humans differently. Not as weak prey, but as the species that turned enemies into allies. That fought with compassion and won with courage. Sarah looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, more people needed help. More alliances needed to be made. Ready for the next adventure, pack leader? She asked. Vornak showed his teeth in a smile. Always, pack mother. Always.